We're now hearing from Rex Heuermann himself this morning. Moments ago, we heard from Heuermann speaking to the judge before pleading guilty. Let's listen.
Have you discussed this case with your attorney?
Yes, I have.
Have you had enough time to discuss this case with your attorney?
Yes, I have.
After discussions with your lawyer, you feel it's in your best interest to plead guilty rather than go to trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you satisfied with the manner in which your attorneys represented you in this case?
Yes, I am.
I must say that the attorneys on both sides of this case have been excellent, unbelievable lawyers. Do you understand that by pleading guilty to a charge, that is the same as if you had gone to trial and been found guilty of that charge?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're waiving a number of very important rights?
Yes, Your
A man drove to work every single day for 13 years. He sat in his office. He answered emails. He helped clients pull building permits. He went home to his wife and his kids. He ate pizza at his desk. And the whole time, investigators believe, he knew exactly where 4 bodies were buried. This is the story of the Gilgo Beach murders. It is a story about 4 women who deserve better. It is a story about a cold case that almost nobody believed would ever be solved. And it is a story about the one clue that a killer left behind. Not at a crime scene, not at a victim's home, but in a trash can on a Manhattan street corner. A pizza box. That pizza box brought him down. My name is your host, and you are watching Dark Evidence Lab, the channel that covers the cases that refuse to be forgotten. If you are new here, welcome. Hit that subscribe button right now and join this community, because we do this every week. And real quick, drop a comment and tell me, where in the world are you watching this from right now? And what time is it there? I love knowing who is on the other side of this screen. Type it below. I read every single one. Now, let us get into it. It all started because of a woman named Shannon Gilbert and a phone call she made in the middle of the night. It was the early morning hours of the 1st of May, 2010. Shannon was 23 years old. She worked as an escort. Sometime after midnight, she dialed 911 from a quiet neighborhood not far from Gilgo Beach on Long Island, New York. She was not calm when that call connected. She told the dispatcher that someone was after her. She said people were trying to kill her. She was running through the streets, knocking on doors, begging strangers to let her in. People heard her outside their windows. Neighbors remembered hearing screaming. And then the screaming stopped. Shannon Gilbert was gone. Police searched the area. Canine units combed through the brush. Weeks turned into months. Nothing. The case went cold, and most people assumed it would stay that way. Then, in December of 2010, a police officer and his dog, a canine named Blue, were searching the marshy area near Gilgo Beach when they found something in the brush. Human remains. The whole search had been about finding Shannon, so when those remains were discovered, the immediate assumption was that it was her. It was not Shannon. And what came next stunned everyone involved. Within days, as the search expanded, investigators found more remains. Not one more, 4. 4 sets of human remains, all in the same general stretch of beach on Long Island, all hidden, all left there like they were nothing. The 4 women were identified as Maureen Brainard-Barnes, Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. All 4 were in their 20s. All 4 had worked as escorts and advertised their services online. All 4 were petite. And 3 of the 4 had been wrapped in burlap, the rough, coarse material that hunters use in the field. They became known as the Gilgo 4. And for the families who got the knock on the door that nobody ever wants, life would never be the same again. Now, if this is your first time on Dark Evidence Lab, hit that like button right now and subscribe. It takes 2 seconds, and it helps this channel keep covering stories like this one. These women deserve to be remembered, and every single like and subscribe helps more people find this video. Let us talk about who these 4 women actually were. Because behind every case file is a real person with a real life, and I want you to know them. Maureen Brainard-Barnes was 30 years old. She was a mother of 2 children, and she lived in Norwich, Connecticut. People who knew her described her as sharp and creative. Her sister Missy said she loved being a mom. That was the word Missy kept using. Loved. Not liked. Loved. But life as a single mother with 2 kids and not enough money coming in was hard. At some point, without telling her family, Maureen had started doing escort work to keep things together financially. On the 9th of July, 2007, she traveled to New York City for a weekend to earn money. She was on her way home when she called her sister Missy from Penn Station in Midtown Manhattan. Missy could hear the noise of the train station in the background, the announcements, the crowd, It was Maureen calling to check in, and then the call ended, and Maureen never came home. Missy reported her missing. Officers eventually told her that after Maureen disappeared, someone had used her cell phone to make a call from Long Island. At the time, that felt like a small detail. Later, much later, it would become one of the most critical threads in the entire investigation. Nearly 2 years after Maureen vanished, a 24-year-old woman named Melissa Bartholomew disappeared. Melissa had moved from Buffalo to New York City to work as a hairdresser. Like Maureen, she had also quietly been doing escort work on the side. She went missing in July of 2009, also from Midtown Manhattan. Her mother, Lynn, has said that she thinks about Melissa every single minute of every single day. Now, what happened after Melissa disappeared is one of the most disturbing parts of this entire story. About a week after she went missing, Melissa's 15-year-old sister Amanda started getting calls from Melissa's phone number, her own sister's number. So of course Amanda answered. She thought it was Melissa. The voice on the other end was not Melissa. The person on that call told Amanda he knew what had happened to her sister. He told her he had killed Melissa. He said it directly to a 15-year-old girl, on her dead sister's phone. He was taunting her. He was playing a game with a child who was already destroyed by grief. When investigators traced those calls, they placed the caller inside Midtown Manhattan, the same area where Maureen had last been seen alive. It was a connection that stayed in the files, waiting. Megan Waterman was 22 years old and a mother to a 3-year-old daughter named Liliana. Her family described her as creative and passionate about fashion. She was devoted to her little girl. She disappeared on the 6th of June, 2010, from a hotel on Long Island. The last known footage of Megan alive is from the security cameras at a Holiday Inn Express. You can see her walking out the door, heading to meet a client. She never came back to that hotel. Her phone records later placed her device inside a Long Island neighborhood called Massapequa Park. Investigators noted that. They filed it away. A decade after her mother went missing, Megan's daughter Liliana, now a teenager, spoke publicly for the first time. She said she would do anything to bring her mom back. She said she just wanted her mom to know that she loves her and that nobody could ever replace her. A 10-year-old left behind. Now a teenager. Still without her mother. Amber Costello was the last of the Gilgo Four to disappear. She lived just 7.5 miles from Massapequa Park. Her friend and former roommate, a man named Dave Schaller, spoke about her after her remains were found. He said Amber was small, barely 4'9", and that she was one of the warmest people he had ever known. But she also struggled deeply. She had an addiction problem, and that addiction had pulled her into sex work. He said something about her that has stuck with me. He said, as amazing as she was as tormented as she was. On the night Amber disappeared, Schaller told investigators that one particular client kept calling her, over and over, without letting up. And this person made her an offer that was impossible to ignore, $1,500 for the night. That was 6 times her normal hourly rate. But there was something else. This client convinced Amber to do something she never did. She left the house without her purse, without her cell phone. She walked out to meet him at his car. Schaller walked her to the front door himself. She hugged him. She told him she loved him. And she walked down the street. He never saw her again. Schaller told police what he could about this client. He had not seen his face clearly, but he had possibly seen him before. He described the man as massive, like an ogre were the exact words he used. And he said the man drove a first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche. That description went into a case file, and it sat there for over a decade. After the discovery of the Gilgo Four, the investigation ran into walls. There were leads, but they did not connect to each other. There were names that came up, but no one who fit everything. Suffolk County investigators and the FBI worked the case for years. The case stayed open, but no arrest came. Families waited. Reporters checked in every few months. The story faded from the front pages. Years passed. In 2011, while expanding the search for more victims, police found additional remains along Ocean Parkway. Eventually, investigators would account for 10 sets of remains in total in that area, including a young woman named Jessica Taylor, a woman identified as Valerie Mack, a toddler girl, and others. None of those additional victims would ultimately be connected to the same suspect. What had happened along that stretch of Long Island was darker and more complicated than anyone initially realized. But still, no arrest. In February of 2022, Nearly 12 years after the Gilgo Four were discovered, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison and District Attorney Ray Tierney put together a brand new task force dedicated entirely to this case. They went back to the very beginning. They pulled every file, every phone record, every witness statement, every scrap of evidence that had been sitting untouched for over a decade. 6 weeks later, a name appeared for the first time. Rex Heuermann. Let me tell you how they found him. The new task force started with the description Dave Schaller had given years earlier, the massive man, the first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche. They went back to Amber Costello's phone records from 2010 and confirmed exactly what Schaller had described. One number that called relentlessly in the hours before she vanished. A prepaid burner phone. No registered name. Untraceable on its own. But phone records told them something else. That burner phone, along with other burner numbers that had been in contact with Maureen, Melissa, and Megan before each of them disappeared, all connected to cell towers concentrated within a small cluster of streets in Massapequa Park. Investigators drew a boundary around that cluster. They called it the box. They were looking for a large, physically imposing man who lived inside that box and who owned a first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche during the years those women went missing. When they ran that combination, the physical description, the vehicle, the location, one name came up. Rex Heuermann, an architect, 6'4", heavily built. His firm was located in Midtown Manhattan. He lived in Massapequa Park. He was approximately 20 minutes from Gilgo Beach. The task force pulled Heuermann's personal cell phone records and compared them to the times and locations of those burner phone calls. And what they found was not occasional. It was not sometimes. It was consistent every single time. Every time a burner phone had been used to contact one of those victims, whether in Massapequa Park or in Midtown Manhattan, Heuermann's personal phone placed him in the exact same location. Every single time. And the taunting calls made to Melissa's 15-year-old sister back in 2009, the ones traced to Midtown Manhattan? Same result. His phone was there. The task force kept building. They confirmed that Heuermann actively used burner phones. While under surveillance in 2022, investigators documented 2 burner numbers in his possession and physically watched law enforcement add money to one of those prepaid accounts. Court documents also revealed 3 email accounts built on fake identities: John Springfield, Thomas Hawk, and Hunter 1903. All 3 tied back to those burner phone numbers. Prosecutors stated that one of those accounts was used to conduct thousands of searches for sex workers, for violent and sadistic content, and for material involving the abuse of children. That is who this man was behind closed doors. There was more. While the task force was watching Heuermann, Heuermann was watching them back. He was running internet searches on the task force itself. He was searching for images of the Gilgo victims. He was searching for their family members, their sisters, their children, and apparently trying to locate those individuals by name. Think about that. He knew they were closing in. And his response was to start researching the families of the women investigators believe he killed. Now, if you have been watching this whole time, drop a comment right now. Tell me where you are watching from. And what time is it there right now? I genuinely want to know. This community is worldwide and I love seeing it. Type it below. Also, if you have not liked this video yet, please do it now. It takes 1 second, and it tells the algorithm that this story matters. These families deserve every view this video gets. People who worked with Rex Heuermann could not reconcile the man they knew with what he was being accused of. Mary Schell worked at his firm in the summer of 2010, the exact same summer that both Amber Costello and Megan Waterman disappeared. She remembered him talking casually about hunting, about how long bear meat could be stored in a freezer. When she later learned that the Gilgo Four had been wrapped in burlap, the kind hunters use in the field, it disturbed her in a way she could not shake. Muriel Enriquez worked at Heuermann's company for years. She described him as a bit of a know-it-all, someone who liked to show off what he knew, a little full of himself, but not alarming. He ate pizza constantly, always on the move between job sites. She remembered him as a serious hunter, passionate about it. There was one moment she recounted that, looking back, unsettled her. She had booked a cruise vacation and jokingly told Heuermann she would be completely unreachable, out in the middle of the ocean. He told her that was not a problem. He said he could find her anywhere. She did not think much of it. Until the second day of her trip, when she found an envelope slipped under her cabin door. The note inside read, "I told you I could find you anywhere." She had filed it away as odd. Until the arrest. Police also recovered close to 300 firearms from a vault in Heuermann's basement. Not dozens. Close to 300. His co-workers knew he hunted and owned guns. But that number stopped everyone cold. His childhood friend John Paraski described Heuermann as someone who had been bullied relentlessly as a child. He was big enough to hurt people, larger than the other kids, but he never fought back. He was a loner. He was rejected by peers and by girls. He carried that awkwardness and that isolation longer than most people. Actor Billy Baldwin, who grew up in the same community, described the news of the arrest as completely mind-boggling. Antoine Amira, a hotel manager who had sat down for a recorded interview with Heuermann in 2022, just 1 year before the arrest, described him as extremely smart, composed, and someone who took real pleasure in finding loopholes that others could not see. He said it plainly. Rex was pleased that he could outwit the system. For 13 years, he did. Now, let us talk about the moment this case broke open. The task force had built a strong circumstantial case. Phone records, burner phones, fake email accounts, search histories, the avalanche, the location data, all of it pointing at Rex Heuermann. But they needed something biological, something they could take into a courtroom and say, "This is him." From the original crime scene evidence collected years earlier, investigators had preserved one male hair. It had been found inside the burlap used to wrap Megan Waterman's body. One hair. That was all they had. And to test it against Heuermann, they needed a DNA sample from him directly, without alerting him that he was under surveillance. So they watched him. They followed his routine. They waited. Rex Heuermann ate pizza all the time. That was his thing. Fast food, pizza slices, eaten on the go between Manhattan job sites. One afternoon, surveillance officers watched him finish eating, drop the pizza box into a trash can on a midtown Manhattan sidewalk, and walk away. They moved immediately. The DNA from the crust of that pizza came back as a match to the hair found on Megan Waterman's body. The specific DNA profile found on that pizza crust exists in only 0.04% of the entire human population. District Attorney Tierney described getting that report. He said he read it once. Then he read it again. Then a third time. Then a fourth time. Then he started making calls. It was time. In July of 2023, plainclothes officers arrested Rex Heuermann around the corner from his Midtown Manhattan office. Commissioner Harrison stood before the cameras at a press conference and said this: "Rex Heuermann is a demon that walks among us. A predator that ruined families." Heuermann was charged with the murders of Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. He was named the prime suspect in the death of Maureen Brainard-Barnes. He stood before a judge and entered a plea of not guilty on all charges. His attorney said that when Heuermann heard what he was being charged with, he was in tears. He said, "I didn't do this." Investigators spent 12 days going through his Massapequa Park home. They pulled close to 300 firearms out of the basement vault. They dug in the backyard. When a reporter asked Commissioner Harrison whether the search had produced anything useful, he paused. He said yes. They pushed him. He said only this: "There are items we have taken into our possession. That makes it fruitful." And the first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche, the same truck that Dave Schaller had described to investigators more than 13 years earlier, back when Amber Costello first went missing, was located on a property Heuermann owned in South Carolina. It was seized under a search warrant. In the weeks after the arrest, the focus shifted to the house in Massapequa Park and to the people who had been living inside it. Heuermann's wife of more than 25 years, a woman named Asa Irup, originally from Iceland, was, by all accounts, completely blindsided. Her attorney Bob Macedonio said it plainly: "Nobody wants to think they have spent 25 years sleeping next to a serial killer." There was a complication, though. Investigators found strands of female hair on 2 of the victims. One on Megan Waterman and one on Amber Costello. Both were tested and came back as consistent with Asa's DNA profile. Not a confirmed match, but consistent enough that prosecutors had to address it. Their explanation was simple. When you live with a spouse, hair transfers. It lands on clothing, on fabric, on skin. Then that person goes out and interacts with others. The hair moves with them. It is not evidence of presence. It is evidence of transfer. Asa has not been charged. She has not been named a suspect. She filed for divorce from Rex Heuermann after his arrest. At that time, she was fighting both breast cancer and skin cancer. Heuermann had been the family's only source of income. Their daughter Victoria, who had worked at her father's firm, and their stepson Christopher both lost their jobs. The family was left trying to rebuild their lives from the ground up, all while cameras sat outside their house every single day. Two other women reached out to ASA publicly. Carrie Rawson, the daughter of the BTK killer Dennis Rader, and Melissa Moore, the daughter of the serial killer known as the Happy Face Killer. They knew from personal experience what it means to find out that someone you loved was capable of something like this. They made contact. They offered support. They understood in a way almost no one else could. Here is what investigators still cannot fully answer. Rex Heuermann is accused of killing 4 women. But the question that has sat over this case from the very beginning is whether there are more. In 2011, while expanding the search, police found 6 additional sets of remains along Ocean Parkway. A woman named Jessica Taylor, who went missing in 2003. A woman identified as Valerie Mack. A toddler girl. A male victim. A skull belonging to a woman named Karen Varda. And a partial set of remains connected by DNA testing to the toddler's mother. None of those victims have been linked to Heuermann. Investigations extended to properties he owned in South Carolina and to Las Vegas, where detectives reopened cold cases involving missing women. Then there is Nikki Brass. Nikki once worked as an escort. She told investigators that she may have met Rex Heuermann before his arrest, at a restaurant, through a solicitation. She said she fled when her instincts told her something was wrong. What disturbed her most was what the man said during their conversation. He brought up the Gilgo Beach bodies himself, unprompted, and asked her how she thought someone could get rid of bodies in that area without getting caught. She told him she had never been to Gilgo Beach. His response, she said, was, "Well, it is really dark and desolate over there." And then there is Shannon Gilbert, the woman whose midnight phone call started all of this. In December of 2011, Shannon's remains were found in the marsh near Gilgo Beach, not far from where the Gilgo 4 had been discovered. Official investigators concluded that Shannon had likely wandered into the marsh in a disoriented state and drowned. Her death has not been classified as a homicide. She has not been connected to Heuermann. But Shannon's family attorney, John Ray, does not believe that conclusion. He believes she was murdered. He points to the 911 call, the fact that she was clearly running from someone, clearly terrified, clearly trying to survive, and says it makes no sense that she ended up where she did unless someone put her there. That question may never be fully resolved. But what is not in question is this. Without that call, made in the dark in the early hours of May 1st, 2010, without Shannon Gilbert running and screaming and pounding on strangers' doors, the Gilgo 4 might never have been found. The remains near Gilgo Beach might still be buried and hidden and unknown. Shannon's sister Sherry said it plainly. If my sister did not make that 911 call, I do not think those other women would have been recovered. 4 women, wrapped in burlap, left on a cold, gray stretch of beach, discarded like they did not matter. Maureen Brainard-Barnes was a mother of 2 who called her sister from a train station and then vanished. Melissa Bartholomew was a hairdresser whose 15-year-old sister answered the phone and heard the voice of the man who took her. Megan Waterman was 22 years old, and her little girl grew up without knowing her mother. Amber Costello hugged her friend at the front door, said "I love you," and walked down the street into the dark. They were real people. They had families who loved them. They had children and sisters and mothers who are still, to this day, trying to find some kind of peace. And the man investigators believe took all of that from them. He woke up every morning for 13 years, drove to his office in Manhattan, answered his emails, ate his pizza, and came home. A pizza box changed everything. Rex Heuermann awaits trial. He maintains he did not do this. The families are still waiting for the justice they have been owed for 13 years. That is the story of the Gilgo Beach murders. If this video reached you, please hit the like button right now. It is the simplest thing you can do to make sure more people find this story. Share it if someone comes to mind. And if you are not subscribed to Dark Evidence Lab yet, do it now. We are here every week, covering the cases that demand to be told. Drop a comment below and tell me what stood out to you most in this case. Was it the pizza box? The burner phones? The 13 years of silence? I want to hear your thoughts. And tell me, where are you watching from? And what time is it there right now? Drop it in the comments. I am reading every single one. I will see you in the next one.